On TNT is brought to you by Propecia. Talk to your doctor today. Back to Monstervision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Return of the Living Dead on TNT.
So there you have it, Rory Calhoun's finest moment when he confesses that he was a hypocrite. He used preservatives in his meat, the classic Motel Hell. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and next week is the last week of Joe Bob's summer school, so gas up the car for that trip to Bogalusa, Louisiana to pick up your receipt for 3 credit hours at the Jefferson Davis Vocational Technical Middle School. Our final night is Occult Studies Night, and we'll be showing the always stylish Carrie and the steamy embrace of the vampire. Well worth staying up late for. We'll also have a real-life witch as our guest lecturer. Okay, the great James Karen is back tonight in Return of the Living Dead Part 2, even though if I remember correctly, he already got turned into a brain-eating zombie in Part 1. So, you know, it's this kind of stuff that makes you not trust the movies anymore. Like they hired the actors and then they said, whoops, you know what? The story doesn't make sense. But then they decide, oh, well, nobody will notice. Well, we noticed, guys. These two guys in the first scene, James Karen and Tom Matthews, they can't get zombified. They already got zombified. It's like casting John Wayne and Liberace in a movie that comes out this summer. Wouldn't be a pretty sight, would it? Anyhow, what happened is that evidently 3 or 4 cans of the secret zombie gas survived the nuclear explosion at the end of Part 1, and now some bozo army truck drivers bounce a can of it into a suburb where some little kids open it up and watch it seep into the cemetery, and then zombies claw their way up through the dirt and start demanding brain salads. The only people who can stop the world from being taken over are a 12-year-old, his aerobic leotard sister, and of course a cable TV installer. Their plan? Lure the zombies to an electric power plant by leaving a trail of cow brains, then hose them down, hit the juice, and barbecue them from the gizzards out. Zombie-rama. 16 dead bodies, 27 undead bodies, 143 living dead bodies, head hacking, heads roll, hands roll, fingers roll, zombie aerobics, multiple brain eating, spike through a zombie heart, shotgun to a zombie face, first recorded instance of someone's face being punched out. Literally. Gratuitous pet eating, screwdriver through the ear, screwdriver to the throat, 3 stars. All right, let's peel some flesh. How about it? Let's watch this. Sometimes you just got to get back to basics and go flesh eater all night long. Tonight's menu includes both smoked and raw. Yummy.
And on TNT.
So the zombies are about to rise again with the same 2 goofy guys hanging around the mausoleum. The young guy is Tom Matthews, a veteran of B movies who claimed he would never make another horror film after Friday the 13th Part 6, and then he promptly signed up to make this horror film. The whole idea for this sequel, which should have been called Return of the Living Dead, because it's more a remake than a sequel, the whole idea, according to the writer-director, was to make the Police Academy of horror films. He couldn't really do a sequel because the entire cast of the first film died in a nuclear explosion that wiped out Louisville, Kentucky. So he just acted like, well, some of the zombie barrels survived, and there was this other cemetery, and 2 guys who look like the 2 guys from the first movie accidentally come across the mausoleum at the same moment. The green gas is wafting across the landscape, reanimating the dead bodies. And so this director, Ken Wiederhorn, modeled his creation on that epic of modern cinema, Police Academy. Yeah. Let's see if the movie can hold up to that high artistic ideal. Roll it. What he should have done, though, is use a Steve Guttenberg zombie if he wanted to do that. Then he might have had something. Steve Guttenberg chewing brains, getting fatter and fatter and fatter. I'd pay about 50 cents to see that.
Oh, yeah. Of the Living Dead on TNT.
That's great kid logic, don't you think? There's zombies out there. We need to call the army. And, of course, your sister is going to treat you like a total dope for saying something like that. Anyhow, a guy named Kenny Myers did the special effects for this film, and I think he did a great job on the zombies. That crowbar embedded in the zombie skull, that is funny. Yep. And the zombie that gets punched in the face and the girl's hand goes all the way through the face and gets all gooey, she literally punches him out. That's a great effect. Many of these zombies were volunteers, doctors, lawyers, horror film fans from Southern California who showed up for an open casting call in Valencia, California, and they were paid $32.50 a day to put on the zombie makeup and do that herky-jerky zombie strut. In fact, the director invented a lot of new, never-before-seen zombie moves for this film. He wanted faster zombies, zombies that moved in interesting ways. Ken Wiederhorn, he thought of himself as sort of the Bob Fosse of zombies, and I think it works. Okay, let's party with the undead. Roll it. George Romero is the guy who invented that zombie walk thing in the 60s. And ever since then, zombies have been slow and uncoordinated. They walk around like one-legged polio victims with fungus growing off their face. And so, you know, sometimes we'll have to compare them to the more traditional zombies in Night of the Living Dead. You know, compare these zombies and those, compare and contrast. And yeah, your 7th grade teacher always tells you to do that, compare and contrast. I hated it when she said that. My eyes would glaze over. They love that phrase, though, compare and contrast. Wouldn't compare include contrast?
TNT.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the first recorded instance of a zombie son eating his mom's brain on film. We had fire pokers through the chest, screwdrivers through the head, zombies munching brains right out there on the lawn, which brings up the question. None of this stuff seems to be killing these zombies. And you have to know in any good zombie movie what does kill the zombies. For example, in the original Night of the Living Dead, the only thing that will kill them is a bullet through the brain. In the Evil Dead, you got to have total dismemberment, arms, legs, head, everything. But in this particular movie, total dismemberment doesn't seem to work. These things is like trying to kill a snake with a hatchet. They just won't die, you know? And there are no rules about how to kill them. And I don't like that. That violates Ruskin's theory of dramatic composition. I'm writing a letter to the film company. Okay, back to the movie. You ever try to kill a snake with a hatchet? Like a water moccasin? Or better yet, a shovel? You know, like hack it up into itty-bitty pieces, and then you come back an hour later, it's still moving around. There's like 30 snakes there where there used to be one snake. Ugh. I used to go into convulsions when I saw those things. I became a mad psycho killer, you know. I'd kill water moccasins for hours until I was certain that they were dead. I'm creeping myself out just thinking about it. Have a beer. One of the best lines in the movie. They're ugly and they're dirty and they're dumb, and I don't even care if they are dead. They're not touching me. Marcia Dietland in the Jamie Lee Curtis role in this movie. The other great performance is Philip Bruns as the doctor. And the young kid, that's Michael Kenworthy of Growing Pains fame. Anyhow, James Karen, the guy who plays Ed and who is slowly turning zombie on us, he had to wear that special zombie makeup so many hours a day that one night he was really tired and he decided to drive home from the set with the makeup still on. So about halfway home, he gets pulled over by a cop. Cop comes up to the car and says, I saw you and I thought something was wrong with you. And James Karen starts to explain that he's making a horror flick and this is just makeup. And the cop says, oh, Return of the Living Dead, right. It's amazing how many people saw that original movie. Okay, let's waste some zombies. Roll it. People do that to me. That happens to me all the time. Cops pull me over and they say, hey, man, love your show. Love it when you do that weekend update thing. Hate that when they do that. Say that. The famous Zombie That Won't Die special effects scene. The movie's actually better than I remember it. While Ed and Joey are having a little midnight snack, though, munching on Army brains, this might be a good time to read some mail in the segment we call Joe Bob's Advice to the Hopeless with...
Yeah!
The TNT Mail Girl.
Yeah.
What? No adjectives tonight?
What do you mean, no adjectives?
Well, you know, you usually say the delicious TNT mail girl or the buxom TNT mail girl.
Well, I
or
thought it
something
was
like
time
that.
I started treating you with a little more respect.
Really?
Yeah. What, you don't believe me?
Look me straight in the eyes and say that.
All right. No, the truth is I had so many adjectives racing through my head I couldn't think straight. The arousing male girl, the desirable male girl, the libidinous male girl, the male girl whose hair smells like strawberries. Can I get a closer whiff of that?
No, I should have known better. I am just going to go ahead and give you this. It's from Scott Palmer of Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Okay. Hey, Joe Bob. I won your Monstervision contest for June 3rd or some damn thing.
Some damn thing.
And the first time I wore your T-shirt, I mean the very first time I wore the thing, pow! I get punched dead square in the nose from a great big fat guy I thought would never punch a guy dead square in the nose. Is there any way I can trade the T-shirt in for an item of apparel that's less offensive to a great big fat guy? Maybe some TNT shorts or socks or a Monstervision jock strap or something? I'm kind of afraid to wear the shirt a second time. Yours, Scott Palmer, Klamath Falls, Oregon. Well, Scott, I'm sorry you had to go through that, buddy. I'm afraid that the sickly green color of the Monstervision T-shirt has just recently been proven to attract blows from the aggressively obese. This was something that didn't show up in the demo phase, so we didn't realize it until the shirts had already been manufactured and several Monstervision viewers had been pulverized by fatzos. We only have a few of these shirts left. We're trying to get the bug out of the shirt, so please accept our apologies. And if you want to send the shirt back, we'll be happy to tidy up those blood stains for you. And by the way, it's funny you should bring up the Monstervision jockstrap, because our research and development department is currently working on that idea. In fact, I'm wearing a test model as we speak. I should be wearing 5 or 6 with Reno sitting here next to me. Smelling like, what is that essence, that fragrance, that strawberry or raspberry?
No, I have an adjective for that.
Yeah.
How about lewd? Or how about vulgar?
No.
Yeah.
How about I'll show you, lie down and rest that lovely coiffure of yours on my chest, and you'll see that it's
time for me to go. I'm out of here.
Just a little strand on the back of my neck would be nice. That's the ultimate girlfriend, don't you think? Her boyfriend turned zombie on her, and she loves him so much that she lets him eat her brain, too. This movie was not quite as successful as the original Return of the Living Dead, which was a parody of Night of the Living Dead, but it made enough money to produce yet another one, Return of the Living Dead 3, which came out in 1993. And that's enough trivia. It's now time for the conclusion of the movie that may have more raw brains per minute than any movie ever made, Return of the Living Dead 2. Cerebellum du jour. You know, I've watched so many of these zombie movies, I can eat pizza while I'm looking at the movie. Most people can't do that. Triple cheese, too. Fairly disgusting. I like the philosophy behind that movie. Let's take a young boy, turn him into a zombie, have him eat his mom's brain, and try to murder several people, then stick a screwdriver through his mouth, toss him off a 3-story building, and electrocute his butt. A little fable for modern times. Return of the Living Dead Part 2. All right, I want to thank Dr. Vale Reese for being with us tonight. If you missed him, you can check out his website, skinema.com. And I want to remind you that next week is the last night of Joe Bob Summer School Occult Studies Night, featuring the 4-star classic Carrie and a very hot lesbo kiss scene in Embrace of the Vampire. That's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that you are unique, just like everybody else. Did you hear that following the approval of Viagra by Britain's health authorities, the first shipment arrived yesterday at Heathrow Airport? But it was hijacked on the way to the depot, and Scotland Yard has just warned the public to be on the lookout for a gang of hardened criminals. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. Guy goes to the proctologist for his first examination, and the doctor tells him to have a seat in the examination room, and he'll be right with him. So the guy's sitting there, and he notices that there are 3 items on the counter there: a tube of KY jelly, a rubber glove, and a beer. When the doctor comes in, the guy says, "Look, Doc, this is my first exam. I know what the KY jelly's for, and I know what the glove is for. What's the beer for?" And the doctor gets outraged, and he storms to the door, and he flings the door open, and he yells,